you see, ma'am, there's no money, you know, there's no way of living without some sort of income. And if unemployment becomes so high, it becomes very difficult for me to actually start to feed my family. So hence I actually worked on other alternatives, you know, to actually be self-sufficient. I'm selling sweets here, I'm selling chips there, I'm trying my best to open up my small tuck shop just so I can actually put ends meet at the end of the day. We've been motivated to educate ourselves. It's been a historic, you know, statement where we grew up knowing very well that you need to pass your matric. From your matric, you need to get your specific diploma or degree or higher certificate or anything in order for you to actually have a better life. And personally, for myself, I've got the diplomas, I've got the degrees, I've got the postgrads, I've been applying. You know, you talk about it, Z83. I know it off by heart, you get what I'm saying? Because I know every step that needs to be done when it comes to applying. Now, I also say, Guti, I'd love to pose a challenge to all of these leaders that are up there to say that as an MP, as a deputy director, as a minister, your obligation within your first year of your tenure, your obligation is to create at least 1,000 job opportunities. I mean, new jobs. If you say, I, Tsepo Mchunu, am the new minister of XYZ, my plan is to, within my space, I am going to create at least 1,000 opportunities, informal or formal opportunities. Now, in a cabinet or in parliament, how many people sit in parliament? If everybody had that main objective, don't you think, Uguti, our numbers of employment will change drastically?
That our jobs are being taken by foreign nationals is a cry. It is not getting the right interpretation. The reality of the matter is, it is the bottom end of the labor market that needs our attention. For example, we support the visa regime as envisaged to attract skills and investment into the economy. We support that fully. But we say it should be complemented by us paying attention to the fact that at the lower end of the market, we're not paying attention. And that is where the employment crisis is. In other words, we make the point that it is not xenophobic to say, please protect sectors that do not want complicated skills. That will be your hospitality. It will be your hospitality, it will be your farm work, it will be your construction. And I'm sure people who took time to monitor the George crisis and disaster, you will know that it exposed our laxity in dealing with construction sector as a sector. And the attractiveness of employers is that those sectors, it's easy to invite anybody at substandard wage rates. And it is this government that has a responsibility to deal with that issue and monitor it. Now, every time I go to a restaurant, I won't mention the names because I normally say it's upmarket when it is not in the upmarket. That is the legacy of being a rural boy. But you go to a restaurant, I hardly get served by a South African. We can't accept that.
So you're not allowed, especially in the informal market. The informal market only belongs to South Africans. So this is what we're going to do. Call your brothers to come collect your stock.
Who's your brother?
Call your brothers to come collect your stock. We're closing the shop.
Okay, let's make it clear. Businesses in the informal market, as a foreign national, you are not allowed to operate. The house owner, if she wants to run this business, she must talk to us. We will connect her to people that will assist her with funding. But foreigners are not allowed to operate businesses in the informal market. Okay? So documents or no documents. To begin with, an asylum seeker means, or a refugee, means that you are somebody that comes from a country that is in a state of war or civil war. And such a person is advised to migrate to their nearest country. So you cannot come all the way from Somalia or Ethiopia or Bangladesh and seek refuge in South Africa. whoever gave you this documents from Home Affairs, whatever they did is an unlawful act. It cannot, you are not allowed to. So that's why when our people were in exile, they were in camps because they were asylum seekers. They were refugees. They were running away from political attacks. So you guys, we don't understand why you guys are in our townships, taking our business space and doing jobs that we are supposed to do. So we are here to correct it. We're going to do a peaceful operation. We're asking you guys to call whoever works with you, your brothers, to come with a truck. Nobody's going to loot your things. Nobody's going to take your money. In fact, right now we're going to ask you to get your money, your speed point, or anything, your money.
I don't want to touch it.
We don't want to touch it. We're going to take out the stock and put it here. We are closing this shop.
Secondly, let me add, when you are misleading our government, you registered here, you asylum in a address in Randfontein and you are in Vilabela. So how are they going to monitor you? Yeah? How are they going to monitor you as an asylum seeker? So you are a risk in our country. Please take your documents, pick up your money. Pick up your money.
Good evening, I'm Ivy Smithy, and welcome to this Daily Cast News special documentary. Tonight we confront one of South Africa's most pressing challenges, an unemployment crisis that continues to worsen despite numerous government interventions. The latest statistics, South Africa figures, paint a sobering picture. As of the first quarter of 2025, our youth unemployment rate has reached a staggering 62.4%. Up from 59.6% in the previous quarter. Overall unemployment stands at 32.9%, affecting over 8 million South Africans. But these are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. Behind every statistic is a human story. Graduates with multiple degrees selling sweets on street corners, skilled young people unable to find even general labor jobs to feed their families. Tonight, we examine whether the current basic income support system is providing real solutions or merely putting a bandage on a hemorrhaging wound. We'll hear from Evanshni Naidu of the Black Sash organization, who argues for urgent increases to basic income grants. We'll break down exactly who qualifies for these grants and examine their real impact on unemployment. Most importantly, we'll ask the hard questions. Can basic income grants truly address unemployment, or do we need more fundamental solutions?
Black Sash is calling for the urgent implementation of a basic income support grant for those unemployed. According to the latest statistics, over 8.4 million South Africans are now without a job. Let's unpack the story with Evanshni Naidu, the KZN director, or rather regional manager of Black Sash. Evanshni, thanks for your time. And you and I have had this conversation before, haven't we, about the essential need for a basic income grant. So the statement from Black Sash now says there's an urgent need to introduce a permanent basic income support for those aged 18 to 59. Is this different to what we call the BIG?
No, it's actually the same concept. The issue is that, there's so much of stigma when you call something a grant, because as we know, a lot of people in our country think that by giving people grants, we're giving people handouts rather than a hand up. So rather to take away that stigma and discrimination, we choose to call it a basic income support, which is some form of income to ensure that a person between the age of 18 to 59 is able to live with some dignity in our country because of the triple threats of unemployment, inequality and poverty in our country.
Yeah. The social relief of distress grant, we know, has been extended. It has been a lifesaver for many, many households, but it is, Evanshni, an incredibly small amount of money, given what we know about what it takes to run a household, how much money is needed for a household to survive.
To put into perspective, 370 Rand a month is not enough for an individual to buy a loaf of bread every single day for that month to survive. Now, we're just talking about bread. We're not talking about your hygiene needs and all other basic needs that a human being needs to survive in terms of nutritional value, let alone everything else that you need to survive. Coupled with the unemployment statistics that have come out, we've also received the statistics about the food inflation that is increasing categorically year on year. And when you look at these two factors together, it means that the poorest of the poor continue to be marginalized, but this also means that even the middle class, etc., is struggling in order to make ends meet. And if we do not have the political will behind a basic income support to create some kind of safety net for individuals in households, it's going to become unsustainable in our country. So people cannot survive on just the 370 rand, which they are getting or not getting, as the case may be, depending on how successful they are in navigating the system.
Right. I mean, that's a shocking perspective, isn't it? That 370 rand doesn't buy you a loaf of bread every day in the space of a month. So how much would a basic income support be?
So for the Black Sash, one of the calls that we're making is that at least get it to the food poverty line of just over 700 rand, so that at least their basic needs in terms of nutrition can be met, along with the other things that that individuals can use to take care of. So this would also provide some kind of lifeline, both to the individual, but as well as to the households within which they live, which we know also include other grants, and that the families and the households could then have some kind of dignity to support themselves and kind of overcome these high food inflation practices that are also happening, which we are also not seeing any action on behalf of government to ensure that people living in South Africa are able to even meet these basic needs on a daily basis. The prices of food, of meat, vegetables, and cooking now is skyrocketing as we speak.
In response to these alarming statistics, civil society organizations have been calling for urgent action. Hours after the latest unemployment figures were released, Evanjni Naidu from the Black Sash organization appeared on television, making a passionate plea for immediate intervention. The Black Sash has been at the forefront of advocating for basic income support for years. Their argument is simple but controversial. Increase the Social Relief of Distress grant from 370 rands to at least 700 rands per month, to ensure people can afford basic necessities like bread for an entire month. Evanjni Naidu's plea raises fundamental questions about the adequacy of our current social safety net. The current SRD grant of 370 rands per month, that's roughly 12 rands per day. Can anyone realistically survive on 12 rands a day in today's economic climate? Let's put this in perspective. A loaf of bread costs approximately 15 to 20 rand, a single loaf. The monthly grant doesn't even cover 2 weeks of bread, never mind other basic necessities like transport, rent, or medical care. The Black Sash's proposal to increase grants to R700 would mean R23 per day, still below the poverty line, but potentially enough for basic survival. However, this raises the critical question. Would doubling social grants address the root cause of unemployment, or simply create a more comfortable form of dependency? Critics argue that higher social grants could reduce incentives to seek employment, while proponents maintain that people need basic security before they can actively job hunt. Tonight, we'll examine both sides of this debate. To properly evaluate the effectiveness of our current system, we need to understand exactly how it works. For those viewers who may not be familiar with South Africa's social grant system, let me walk you through the various grants available and their eligibility requirements. Now let us start with Social Relief of Distress, SRD, grant 370. This grant is available to South Africans facing financial difficulties, but there are specific requirements you must meet. Some of the major requirements includes age requirement. You need to be between 18 and 60 years. Next on the list of requirements is citizenship. You must be a South African citizen or have valid asylum seeker or refugee status. And also you must have no income support like salary or other government grants, except for child support grants. And lastly, if your bank balance exceeds 624 rands, you won't qualify, as this grant targets those with minimal financial means. If you meet all these criteria, you are eligible to apply for the SRD grant. Next up, we have a child support grant, This grant supports parents or guardians in raising children. Requirements include: the primary caregiver must be a South African citizen, permanent resident, or refugee. Both applicant and child must reside in South Africa. The applicant must be the primary caregiver of the child to children concerned. The child to children must be under 18 years of age. The applicant and spouse must meet means test requirements. An applicant cannot apply for more than 6 non-biological children. The child cannot be cared for in a state institution. Next up, we have Elderly Grant. This one is for South Africans reaching retirement age. The applicant must be a South African citizen, permanent resident, or refugee. Must reside in South Africa. Must be 60 years of age or older. Must not be receiving another social grant for themselves. Must comply with the means test. Must not be maintained in a state institution. Next up, we have a Care Dependency Grant. This one is for those caring for severely disabled children. The applicant must be a South African citizen, permanent resident, or refugee. Both applicant and child must be residents of South Africa. The child must be under 18 years of age, must submit medical assessment report confirming permanent severe disability, must meet means test requirements, except foster parents. The care-dependent child must not be permanently cared for in a state institution. Lastly, we have Grant in Aid. This is an additional support for those already receiving certain grants. Must be receiving a grant for older persons, disability grant, or war veterans grant. Must require regular attendance by another person for daily activities due to physical or mental disabilities. Must not be cared for in a state-subsidized institution. That is it concerning grants, but this is just a short summary. For more detailed information or assistance with applications, contact the South African Social Security Agency at their toll-free number or email. Each grant has unique requirements, so ensure you understand all criteria before applying. Now comes the critical question that sits at the heart of our documentary. Can basic income grants genuinely address the challenges faced by the unemployed? Can this approach be considered a real solution to unemployment, or are we treating symptoms while the disease spreads? Let's examine the numbers. Currently, approximately 8 million South Africans are unemployed, while the SRD grant reaches about 7 to 8 million recipients. This suggests the grant system is operating at capacity, but unemployment continues to rise. International evidence on basic income grants presents mixed results. Some studies show temporary poverty alleviation, while others demonstrate minimal impact on long-term employment outcomes. The key question: are we creating a safety net or a dependency trap? From our field research, grant recipients consistently report the same reality. 370 rands per month provides temporary relief but doesn't enable job searching. Without money for transport, internet access, or proper clothing for interviews, the unemployed remain trapped in a cycle of poverty. If we increase grants to 700 rands, as the Black Sash suggests, we're looking at an additional cost of approximately 30 billion rands annually to the fiscus. This raises sustainability questions. Can South Africa afford this long-term? And what economic sectors would need to be sacrificed to fund it? Perhaps most critically, would that same 30 billion rands create more value if invested in job creation programs, infrastructure development, or small business support? These are the hard choices facing policymakers as unemployment reaches crisis levels. The evidence suggests grants provide essential humanitarian relief, but don't address the structural unemployment crisis. They keep people alive, but don't necessarily help them thrive or contribute economically. Tonight's investigation reveals a complex reality. Basic income grants serve a crucial humanitarian function. They prevent destitution and social collapse. However, they cannot by themselves solve unemployment. The real solution requires a multi-pronged approach, immediate grant increases to ensure survival, coupled with aggressive job creation strategies, skills development programs, and support for small business development. We cannot allow an entire generation to languish on survival grants. While we maintain the humanitarian safety net, we must simultaneously invest in economic policies that create genuine opportunities. The youth in our townships and rural areas possess energy, creativity, and potential. What they need are pathways, not just to survive, but to contribute meaningfully to our economy. The unemployment crisis demands urgent action on multiple fronts. Grants must increase to ensure survival, but they cannot become permanent solutions. Our focus must shift toward creating an economy that works for all South Africans. This has been Ivy Smithy for Dailycast News. Thank you for joining us for this critical examination of South Africa's unemployment challenge. The conversation doesn't end here. It's just beginning.